Hi guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC Vegas 18, UFC Fight Night 184, whatever it may be, for Alistair Overeem against Alexander Volkov as a main event. I actually think this is a pretty stacked fight night card because you've got Beneil Dariush, you've got Carlos Ferreira, you've got Frankie, Edgar, Cody, Sandhagen. We have great fights this weekend. Pantoja against Manel, Kape. We have some banging fights this week. I'm really looking forward to talking about them there. As always, a big thank you to everybody who shows support my way. If you could please just throw a thumbs up, throw a comment in there. It all helps with the algorithm. It all helps with the channel, and hopefully trying to get it in the algorithm somehow, and I can get some more views. The views have kind of dwindled a little bit, so I'd like to try and get them back up to where it was the 3,000 and the 4,000 per video. But I do appreciate everyone who shows up week in, week out and shows support there. So we have 13 fights this card. As of right now, it was 14 an hour ago. Marion Renault against Macy Chasons fell off the card. She's got COVID-19 as Marion Renault, so I won't be speaking about that there. But overall, I really do like the fight card. I think it's very solid. And kind of the lead into UFC 258 in that one there. So, just having a little look through some of the cards. Like I say, I do think there's good fights. I love the main card. I think it's a really stacked main card. And there's some fights throughout the card there which have kind of fell off. And we've kind of got the card we have here. So I'm going to get into it. Let's go. Where are we? We're starting off with Odi Osborne against Jerome Rivera, a featherweight bout. This is supposed to be the debut of Denis Bodnar, who's a guy that I'm kind of familiar with out the Ukraine, 100% finish rate, so I was looking forward to that matchup. And now we've got Odi Osborne against Jerome Rivera. Rivera's jumping back in here after he lost in UFC Fight Island to Francisco Figueiredo. Odi Osborne, I think he's got a lot of talent, but I still think he's super green. And he latches onto things rather quick. I think if he can get to a body part, he will go after it. But Jerome Rivera, I think he's solid. I think he's kind of doing the UFC a little bit of a solid here by jumping in short notice. Figueiredo was trying to get takedowns on him, did so for the most part. This is one that, like I say, I've not even watched any of Jerome Rivera's fights. I've not had the time to kind of look back, so I'm kind of going a little bit off memory here. Odi Osborne, I bet him in his first fight in the UFC, and when I look back in hindsight to January last year, I think against Brian Kelleher, it wasn't a good bet on my part at all because, like I say, if I'm saying he's a year further forward and he's still green, he was super green against a super experienced guy a year ago. So bad bet on my part, one of my kind of worst bets to kind of start off the year. But I kind of like him in this spot here. I think he's a little bit faster. I think he's a little bit more athletic. Like I say, I still think he will make mistakes in some certain spots. But I think he can land quick, hard shots. I'm interested to see because I think the fight was initially supposed to be flyweight with him and Bodnar. So he's going to be eating well this week in Vegas, getting ready for the fight. So hopefully he doesn't can eat too much when he comes in slow and stiff and kind of not ready to go. But I kind of like him in this spot here. I do. I think that he beats Jerome Rivera. Not super confident in the pick. I'll not be kind of betting it in any shape or form. But I'll sit back and watch and see the progression with Osborne and see if he's made any adjustments from the initial UFC run. Even the Contender Series, I wasn't too impressed with him in that. But I'll take Odi Osborne for the win there. Staying in the featherweight division, we've got Sungwoo Choi against Yusuf Salal, who's coming in here for Colin Anglin, who was supposed to fight Choi. Interesting fight. I'm still pretty high on Yusuf Salal. I think that he will win UFC fights. You've seen in his first few fights in the UFC, not fighting the top caliber guys, but he will look fairly decent against those type of guys. And I'm not saying Choi's any worse than those guys. I think he's actually pretty solid. I think he's got a really good long jab, a good striking game. Can stay a little bit too stationary for my liking. I like the fact he can attack the body. I also like the fact that although he gets taken down on numerous occasions, I mean, he was fighting Gavin Tucker and Movsar Evloev, he was in there, continuing to stay in the fight, getting back to his feet, and like he's just got a heart of a warrior. Comes forward, looks to throw big shots there. Zalal, to me, is coming off that loss to Ilia Topuria away back at Fight Island towards the end of last year. And initially, I thought he gave a good account of himself, and then I went back and watched and I was like, well, Topuria really fought out a good fight there. But to me, he's a guy that I think is pretty solid everywhere, not devastating in any one area, but he's got all those ingredients to make himself a really sound, solid fighter and win fights in the UFC. And that's kind of where I'm moving on here. Now, the line in Choi, let me bring that up. I think it was plus 200. That's a little bit high for me. I think that should be a little bit lower. But I think I can see him clinching them up. I don't think Zalal's offensive wrestling is all too good, but I do think he can get reactionary takedowns here and kind of keep the fight there for maybe 30 to 90 seconds at a time and possibly keep Choi there for a little bit to kind of win parts of rounds. I think in the clinch he could maybe have a little bit of success. I don't think he can fight at range with Choi, so I think that he needs to really kind of mix up a little bit, and I kind of like him to do that in this spot here. So I've got... who have I got? I've got Zalal via decision here. Sorry, guys, I'm half asleep. Trying to think about what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go into the chat and say hi to everybody that's kind of posted a comment and so on. Hi, Rex. Hope you're well. Looking forward to the Benny D fight. Absolutely, Tiger Bomb MMA. Lots of dogs I like this week. Don't blame me. I like a few dogs myself. And I'm very, very well, Kyle. I hope you're all well. Much appreciated for that there. So, Molly McCann against Lara Procopio. I like Lara Procopio here. I'm going to take a shot on my first dog of the night here. I was very close to actually betting her at plus 163. Now she's plus 140 here in the UK. I still quite like that number. And I was actually, I don't want to say I was super impressed with her debut against Karol Rosa. But some of the things in that fight I did kind of like. Rosa was a bigger girl, natural 135er, who's fought at 145, big kind of girl. Definitely was the stronger fighter, but what I liked is she was not afraid to kind of go in the pocket, throw some big bombs with the kind of heavier striker. She took some licks in that fight, and she took some hits in that one that eventually kind of caught up with her in the third round when she got dropped in that fight. But she did enough in the feet to me to think, right, she can last with Molly McCann, because Molly McCann's not like an all-out kind of great boxer, but she does throw a lot of volume, and she can do if you engage in a kind of brawling style fight. But what I liked is she tried to initiate takedowns, and it's something that she showed even in her regional footage, that she would initiate takedowns and be fairly decent on the ground. Molly McCann, one of our biggest kryptonites, has always been that ground game of hers where you can take her down, you can control a little bit. We saw Talia Santos do that. Now, I'm not comparing Procopio to Santos, because I think Santos is a little bit further ahead at this point, but even the Gillian Robertson fight, she's a girl that is very, very good once she gets her hands on you and can control you. And I think that Molly McCann can sometimes panic and make mistakes, and you can kind of capitalize on that. And that's kind of where I'm thinking the value is kind of on Procopio here. So, like Molly McCann, I would love her to win this fight because she's a really nice woman, really, really breath of fresh air to be around. Very, very positive, and she fights for her city, fights for her family, and she loves all that. But I don't know. I just got a funny feeling that Procopio is going to win a couple of these rounds. Close fight to me. I'm going to take a 29-28, probably split decision for Lara Procopio. Was very close to betting her. I don't think I am. I think I'm going to pass on this. I like a couple other dogs in the card, which I probably will take a shot on. But Procopio via 29-28 decision is my pick there. Talking about Karol Rosa, she is up next as she faces off against Jocelyn Edwards, who is making her second start, I want to say, in about 3-4 weeks here. As she's coming off that win over Wu Yanan, where I think her striking looked good. That's something that you watch with her, and it's fairly decent. But I do think there's spots there where Karol Rosa can exploit it a little bit. I was going to bet Nico Montano in this fight with Karol Rosa because I thought that Nico could grapple with Rosa. I thought she could land takedowns. I thought she could be dominant in some positions. And when you look at Rosa's deficiency with her takedown defense, she can get takedowns. She can get body lock takedowns. She can get single leg takedowns. But she does it so bad that sometimes she makes big mistakes. You watch the Larissa Pacheco fight. you watch the Melissa Gatto fight, she makes mistakes in certain spots, especially in the Pacheco one, where she got numerous takedowns and then she'll get swept and she'll be on bottom and she'll be getting rained on with ground and pound. In the Gatto fight, she got caught in a submission. That kind of happens. But I've been fairly impressed with a couple of UFC fights for Rosa. I think she throws a lot of volume. She's got a little bit of power. We've seen that in the Procopio fight. It'll be interesting to see kind of how this match kind of plays out because it's a short notice opponent, obviously. But there was things in the Yanan fight, even though I picked Edwards as an underdog in that fight, I thought there was spots that can be capitalised on. So I think that Rosa can do that. I don't want any part of the kind of betting line side of it because she's like, I think the value is probably on Edwards. She was like plus 200 last night. That's not bad odds in women's MMA in a fight which has the potential to be close, in my opinion. I'm leaning on the Karol Rosa side. I'm going to take her to win a decision in that one there. Devonte Smith against Justin Jaynes. This is another fight that's got put together within the last couple of days. Catchweight bout at 160 pounds there. Devonte Smith's making his return after that kind of devastating loss to Kama Worthy, where that Kama Worthy was a guy that was on the Dana White Contender Series with him, where he was actually holding pads, and then he gets to the UFC and he gets a fight in the UFC and it's against Kama Worthy, and Kama Worthy knocked him out. So that's never a good spot for anybody to kind of be coming in there and having that there. So he's taken a little bit of time off, kind of got rejuvenated after that knockout. A guy who I think there was a few people when he got signed to the UFC were really hyped about him. They messaged me and thought this guy could be a potential challenger for years to come. I don't see it. I thought Alex Silva was actually going to beat Devonte Smith this weekend, and he fell out. So that was a play I potentially liked there as well. But he's pretty explosive, pretty long, can do a little bit of it all, can grapple, can throw some heavy strikes. Justin Jaynes comes from a wrestling background, teaches wrestling, but he's also very, very explosive, comes forward, throws big bombs, but he does it to his detriment to the point where he gasses himself out, and when he gasses himself out, he's very hittable. You can mark the guy up. To me, I don't think Devonte Smith will kind of play. I don't think he'll want to stand and bang, honestly. I think he will kind of look to clinch up and look to get some takedowns here, maybe in the mid part of the fight. I just think he wants to get back in the win column here. So I'm kind of sensing. I watched an interview earlier on with Devonte Smith, and he says he needs the win. He wants the win, which is fair enough because that's obviously what he's after here. But I think he's got an opportunity to finish in the mid part of this fight. Like I say, you watch the Jaynes fights. If he doesn't get you early, you can absolutely come in here and you can take him out. To be fair, the two guys that he's faced, Gabriel Benitez and Gavin Tucker, really sound solid guys in my opinion. Good technicians with their striking. Tucker himself is good on the mat as well. Benitez, I thought, looked very sharp in that fight. I bet him big in that fight as well, Gabriel Benitez. But here, I think I like Devonte Smith. I think he gets a finish in the kind of late second, early third round once Jaynes starts to really tire out a little bit. So I'm going to take Devonte Smith to win that one there. Timur Valiev against Martin Day. I think I'm pretty. There's nothing much here that I really like in this fight, except for kind of Timur Valiev, in my opinion. I think that this is just a fight that Martin Day's, like they say, he stayed around, and I'm surprised he never got caught. But they're keeping these guys for like these COVID kind of type cards where people are falling out everywhere. You're getting short notice opportunities here, and Valiev, he will look to make a bit more impact than he did in his debut. Started off very well against Trevin Jones. Then Tagnoni kind of let it go a little bit too long, and then he ended up getting knocked out. The fight got changed to a no contest as Trevin Jones popped for, I think it's marijuana, which was whack. That's not great. And they took the win off the guy there. I think he can grapple all day. Martin Day, to his credit, I mean, he is he's solid, but I don't think he's UFC caliber. And I'm not trying to disrespect the guy there because I just think that Valiev came in with a lot of hype. He's a guy that I like particularly. I think he grinds it out. I think he gets a finisher here, so I'm going to go Timur Valiev. I think he can get a stoppage, and again, like Devonte Smith, late second, early third round finish, but he might want to make a bit more impact and try and get him out there in the first, but I doubt it happens. Mike Rodriguez against Danilo Marques. No confidence in this fight. I feel like if you're going to take a shot in this fight, you take it on the Marques side. And I did the MMA huddle on Monday, and I picked Mike Rodriguez, and that was the fight when I come off making the video. I'm thinking, dude, you're kind of leaning on the side of Marques. Why are you picking Mike Rodriguez? Now, I think Mike Rodriguez could completely finish this fight in the first 160 seconds, in the first 2.5 minutes, or whatever it may be. I think that he can absolutely do that. I think he's got big explosive power initially early on. I don't think his fight IQ is overly great, but he has weapons there which can absolutely test you. When I look at Danilo, I don't see him winning too many fights, but when he gets the fights like he did against Cadiz Ibragimov, I'm like, right, that's the type of guy that Cadiz will make mistakes. Absolutely, he will punch himself out. He will go for like reactionary takedowns and then be on bottom and then get knocked out. And this is the guy here that if he can take you down and stay heavy, I think he could make Mike Rodriguez quit through just lying on him, obtaining position, hitting him with some ground and pound. And I can absolutely see this if Mike Rodriguez doesn't get him out in the first round. Marques can win a sloppy decision here by getting shitty takedowns, get into a position of just being controlling it and do enough where the refs not pulling them off. So initially, the gut feeling was Mike Rodriguez. I'm changing my pick to Danilo Marques. The kind of more I've kind of thought about it, and I watched just Rodriguez, and he's hard to be confident. So I would rather take a shot in the dog. I feel like a bet wouldn't be bad, but I'm trying to pick my spots a little bit better this year. I've did that a little bit last year where I picked some bad spots, so I'm thinking about it. But the line's decent enough on the Marques side where I would rather be in there than Rodriguez. So I'm going to take Danilo to win by decision in that one there. Michael Johnson against Clay Guida is up next in the lightweight division. I mean, Clay Guida, I thought he looked decent last time out, I'll be honest with you. I liked how he fought against Bobby Green. Always light in his feet. I thought he looked particularly quick for a guy that's 39 years old. I thought he looked quick in that fight. Ultimately, he's coming off a lost 3 of his last 4. And saying that, they're 2 sound, solid guys, and Green, Jim Miller, Charles Oliveira. I mean, Charles Oliveira's probably going to be fighting for that lightweight belt soon with a win against BJ Penn, which you can't really take anything away because BJ's been a train wreck for years now. But still, it's great to have in your record. Before that, he beat Joe Loza and Eric Koch as well. So he's beat guys that really predominantly aren't around the UFC anymore with BJ. I think Lozon, I don't think he's with the UFC anymore. I think that he's maybe retired, but could be wrong. Eric Koch, we've not seen him in a long time. But this guy still fights really, really strong, can still get takedowns. You saw that well-timed takedowns against Bobby Green. Now, Bobby Green's very, very good and elusive at kind of bouncing back to his feet and making fights close. That's a kind of Bobby Green speciality. And then, so Clay Guida's always going to be in this fight, not unless you get him out there early. He's been caught with submissions in the past. Not really a guy that gets knocked out too often. The T-City one was late in the 3rd round where he was close to actually winning that fight, in all honesty, in my opinion. So I think he can mix in takedowns here and kind of win spots in the round. Michael Johnson, you cannot have any confidence in this guy at all, in my opinion. It's because I don't want to say he's a flake, because when this guy turns up, he beats some of the world's best fighters, and you've seen that with the people that's on his resume that he's beaten, who he's fought. I mean, he's fought the absolute who's who of that division. Your Gaethjes, your Habibs, your Poiriers, your Tony Fergusons, your Nate Diaz, Beneil, Dariush, Barboza. He's beat Dustin Poirier. He knocked him out in the first round. He's beat Tony Ferguson. He's beat Edson Barboza. So, I mean, the guy, but then you look at his last 3 fights, cruising against Josh Emmett, gets spotted in the 3rd. The Stevie Ray one was a kind of eye-opener to me, because I thought, well, the last 2 fights are an eye-opener, to be fair. I think he thought he was pretty handily winning that fight, and then he started bitching when he lost the decision. And I actually think it was close enough where you could have given it to Stevie Ray. The judges decided to give it to him. And then the Thiago Moises one was completely piecing him up with his hand speed, great footwork, picking his shots properly. And then he gets caught with a heel hook like 25 seconds into the second round there and loses the fight. He probably 10-8'd, won that round 10-8 against Thiago Moises and was looking super comfortable. So this is the risk you take if you put money on Michael Johnson. It's that. So I can see him starting off strong. I can see Guida staying in the fight, making it scrappy, making it dirty, getting some takedowns, clinching him up a little bit. I mean, I can't trust Michael Johnson anymore, so I'm going to take Clay Guida, and I am pretty sure that I will probably maybe put a little bit of money on Clay Guida to win this one. He's plus 180. I think the line's decent. I think he can win a close decision. I'm still thinking that through a little bit. Like I say, I'm trying to pick my spots a little bit better. But I do like Clay Guida to kind of win that fight there. So I will go with Clay for the win. This fight, jeez. Carlos Diego Ferreira against Beneil Dariush. First of all, it's the first fight in the main card. I think it should be closer up the top there, but you're keeping your viewers interested by keeping a fight like this in the early part of your main card. Rematch of a fight that took place nearly 7 years ago. Don't think you can take a hell of a lot away from that fight, in my opinion. Even though Beneil Dariush, I think, won it pretty comfortably. There's been a lot. It's been weird because Carlos Diego, you've seen the progression he's made, the pressure that he's shown. He's went to a camp, like a more bigger camp, and he's got an actual coach instead of him coaching himself like he was back in the day when he was at his own gym. I believe he's went to Fortis MMA, and he's going to be getting great looks because we all know and talk about how good that gym is. And we've seen him kind of move up the tier. He had a little bit of a kind of suspension, came back. I thought he looked a little bit sloppy initially on that return against OEM. Still a good win. Jared Gordon's a tough guy. Got him out there in the first. Kyle Nelson, that was a bit ropey in the first round. He caught a shot there and was wobbled a little bit, I thought. But kept his composure, getting the second round, then he knocked him out. And in the last three fights, you've definitely seen the progression of his game. Rustam Khabilov, Mirbek Taisumov, Anthony Pettis, three good names to have winning in the lightweight division. I mean, and he's fought good guys before that. He fought Cory, obviously fought Dariush before that. But his pressure is definitely something that showed to me his improvement with his striking, his shot selection to me, his footwork. You can definitely see the differences from 2014, 2021, which we're going to see soon. Big gaps there. I think he's a little bit more patient as well. Kind of picks his times to kind of be more aggressive. But just a really good fight across all facets, in my opinion. I'm still a little bit worried about his takedown defense. I think when you watch the first fight, Beneil was getting single legs, he was getting double legs. That's predominantly how he won that fight. It was fairly even on the feet. The third round, Ferreira started to come into it a little bit more, but I thought Beneil won that one fairly comfortably. Beneil Dariush, I mean, he's been, since, in my opinion, since he's come into the UFC, I've had him earmarked as a top 10 guy, and I 100% still think that he is. I think he must be round about that now. I think there's 10, 11 in the division. And he's come through some rough patches. I mean, you go back to, obviously, I kind of watched one of his losses recently against Michael Chiesa when I was watching his fight. Won that round convincingly, was absolutely beating Michael Chiesa's ass. Makes one mistake against Chiesa, and Chiesa being a big dude, gets his back and gets the rear naked. Comes back, knocks out James Vick, who got knocked out brutally at the weekend and is now retired. He can win a fight through just going to decision. He can be a very good point fighter because his striking is very, very good, very accurate, good selection of shots, good body kicks, very underrated low kicks, in my opinion. And then he's got the ground game there where he can wrestle, he can take you to the ground, but there's always the little worry about his chin. And I must admit, I am a little bit worried about his gas tank a little bit. I think he's kind of blowing it all out there quite early in his recent fights, and he's given us some exciting spots through that. I think after the Alexander Hernandez loss, that really belted his confidence really badly, and he had to really work his way up. And I think the UFC did him favours with the matchups that they gave him. Moises, he was just a far more supreme grappler. Drew Dober, he's a very, very, very dangerous jiu-jitsu guy with his position, picks his angles, picks his spots in the game very, very well. Frank Camacho, in my opinion, that was just a bad miss. bad match to put together. I was very high on Dariush in that. Drakkar Klose had some spells in that fight there where had to come through some shit and then eventually gave us one of the best moments of 2020. There wasn't many through 2020 with having no fans and all that, but he gave us one. It was great to see the fans go wild. And then the spinning back fist of Scott Holtzman. So the guy's just been reining in performance bonuses. He would have got one for that last one, but he missed weight. I've bet him in all those fights since Alexander Hernandez lost. That's 5 straight. And now I'm getting him at dog money. I'm in. I've got Beneil Dariush. I think he's just a little bit more well-rounded of a fighter, but I am a little bit cautious about his gas tank in the mid part of this fight, and maybe Carlos can maybe take over. But in a fight, I think it favours him in more aspects of it. I have to side with him, and I have to bet him at dog money. So I've already bet him. I bet him at plus 105. I don't know whether it's going to get any better than that. I think it's changed to plus 100 in the UK here. So I've got Beneil Dariush. I think that he wins a decision, a 29-28 decision. But that is a fight I am thoroughly looking forward to there. Cody Stamann against Askar. Askar is up next. I've got Cody Stamann, not handily, but I think that he wins a decision pretty handily here. Askar to me is pretty much a grinder. I think a guy that I think in the UFC can cause some fighters some problems at bantamweight with that style. I don't think his striking's fully developed yet. It's something that if you watch, he really just wants to get his hands on you, get you to the ground, control you. Not really one of these guys that'll stand and brawl, throw a lot of shots. So we need to see a kind of progression with that. When I look at Cody Stamann, I think that he can withstand the kind of grind of Askar. I think that he can get the underhooks, he can push him against the cage, he can jump back to the middle, and I was going to say control distance there, but Cody Stamann doesn't really control distance against anybody with his reach or whatever, but it's very, very solid. Again, picks his shots well, he angles off well, does everything fairly decent. So for me, I've got Cody Stamann. I'd like to see him come out here and get a finish, but I don't think he does that. I think he wins this fight pretty handily in the judges' scorecard. I am interested in Askar going forward because I do think he has a kind of grind that will win him fights in the UFC. Not he won't look good in the kind of fans' eyes or whatever, but he will win fights through his just his toughness really, and the way he grinds out his fights. So I'll take Cody Stamann. I'll take him by decision. What a great fight this is. Alexandre Pantoja against Manel Kape. Very interested in Manel Kape's UFC debut, and he's getting a big opponent in his debut as well. This is a guy that weighed in for the Davison-Moreno fight as the backup fighter when Pantoja pulled out due to COVID-19. But they've kept this fight together. Really looking forward to this one here. I have a bet on this fight as well, at which I made. I can't remember when I made it, but I've got some money down. Let's talk about Manel Kape. I mean, a guy that has been fighting in Risen, fighting decent guys over in Risen. Still very young, 26, I believe he is, fighting out of Portugal. Has been at AK, so you would think that his grappling's starting to get a little bit better. I think he's an excellent sign for the division. I think he's a dangerous guy in that division. I think he will beat big guys, big named guys in that division. And he's fought good competition already. I mean, Kojo Horiguchi, Kaya Sakura, Ian McCall, Daniel Barres, who are guys it's outside the UFC, I think it's pretty decent. But like I said, I think he's pretty well-rounded on the feet. Very, very dangerous. Like when he starts throwing hooks, you have to be very, very careful because he doesn't discriminate. He goes to the body, he goes to the head. He will mix it up with those shots. Can eat a shot as well. We've seen a few times he's taken a few licks and he's came back, composed himself, and kind of stayed on the fight. And saying that, the guy's got submission victories as well. I don't think submission, like on the ground, is where he really wants to go this fight. If I'm Pantoja, I'm trying to get the fight to the ground. But he has 5 submissions to his name. When he's been taken down, you've seen him pop back to his feet. That's something which I think is good. But I think if Pantoja was to get certain positions in this fight, he could hold him there and be a big submission threat. But he's very, very explosive. A lot of very explosive attacks, feints, big. blitzes in, he taunts his opponents all the time, tries to get in your head, tries to do it the weigh-ins, is always talking, is always engaging you to come on. Great combinations. Like I say, he digs the body, and he's got a pace that can keep up for a long part of the fight there. And he's had everything, to me, he's had everything kind of checked. He's had his chin checked by good guys. I'm a little bit wary about him getting opened up with kind of leg kicks. I think that's something Pantoja, if he can get off early, they could really maybe he could capitalise as the fight goes on. But I think Pantoja, the worry I have here, and I'm picking Pantoja here, guys. The worry I have is that he engages in a brawl, because if he engages in a brawl with Manel Kape, I think that he could catch the chin of Pantoja, and Pantoja might have to kind of revert to that grappling, and it might be a little bit too late for that. So for me, I think he has to get the fight to the ground. I think he's got a clear advantage with his submission skills, his jiu-jitsu skills down there, and his positioning down there. So I'm going to pick Pantoja to actually submit Manel Kape. There's a lot of people. What I've kind of liked is a lot of people on the Manel Kape side where they're picking him via knockout. I'm going submission side. I think that even that he maybe even win a pretty decent decision. But I'm looking forward to seeing Manel Kape. I'm a big fan of his, but I think it's a tough fight to come into the UFC, and I think that Pantoja will just submit him. So I've bet Pantoja minus 125. The lines went up to minus 145. It's come back to like minus 135. So it's fluctuating a little bit. I can probably still see that moving where it might get below minus 125. So I might have mucked that one up a little bit. But I've got Pantoja to kind of win that fight as well. So, but like I say, Manel Kape, like, if you're looking for good dogs this week, that kid's not a bad dog playing in my opinion, but I'm more in the Pantoja side. It's the gut feeling I had when I was watching tape, and even before that, when the first fight was initially made. But I've got him to Pantoja to win via submission in that one there. So the co-main event of the night, we've got Cory Sandhagen against Frankie Edgar. I'm seeing a lot of love for kind of Frankie Edgar on your kind of Reddit, on Twitter. You're seeing people take shots on him betting wise, and like, I do agree that I think the betting line like plus 350 on Frankie Edgar is a little bit I don't want to say disrespectful, because that's taken away from Cory Sandhagen, who's a great fighter. But when you look at kind of Frankie's resume, I mean, he has fought everybody. He has fought so many guys. It's not even funny. And since like UFC 112, even before that, he was fighting Sean Sherk. Then he fought BJ, got the belt, and then he's been fighting just non-stop killers since then. And across 3 divisions, at lightweight, at featherweight, now at bantamweight. So he's been fighting great guys. But you have to think that those days are kind of coming to an end with the kind of the new generation of fighters we've got, especially at bantamweight. I mean, Sandhagen's massive for that division. Big reach advantage. I do think there is a path to victory here for Frankie Edgar with that grappling, because Sandhagen will give you opportunities. You've seen Alcantara jump in and take downs. You've seen Sterling, obviously, who's a great grappler, and very tough to kind of get off you. I don't see Frankie Edgar doing that and not like accumulating damage. Cory Sandhagen's very flowy, very long, very unique with his striking, can throw a lot of different looks at you. And Frankie Edgar, I mean, the durability will never be questioned with that guy, because he's taken some absolute licks throughout his career and kind of stayed in fights. I just don't like that spot here. I won't bet the fight, because I think the bet line is a little high on the Sandhagen side. And if you are taking a shot, take it on Frankie Edgar to potentially kind of grind this one out a little bit. But I think he's going to come to some blows in this one. I think he's going to be the end of the strikes of Sandhagen. I think he's going to bamboozle Frankie Edgar a little bit, and I think he catches him with a shot and knocks him out. So I've got Cory Sandhagen via TKO in round number 2 there. And the main event of the night, we've got Alistair Overeem against Alexander Volkov, in a fight that was supposed to happen, I want to say, a little bit when the UFC was going to Russia, and they were supposed to make this fight, and it never really worked out. And then Pavlovich came in and faced Overeem here. Both guys need this win big time to kind of really get themselves closer to a title shot, because they're not overly far away from it in that division. You never ever are if you can reel a couple of impressive wins away. I'm kind of struggling in this fight a little bit, because I think Alistair Overeem's a little bit more live than what a lot of people are. I'm seeing people saying Max bet Alexander Volkov and just going nuts and throwing a lot of money on Volkov, and I'm just not for that. Now, I can see why, because I've actually been really impressed with his last few fights in Alexander Volkov, and he's got a lot of stuff that you could like in this fight with his striking. I was actually really impressed with his loss to Curtis Blades. I loved the fact that he kept himself in that fight. When he got the opportunity, he tried to take it to Curtis Blades, but you just can't stop the grind of that guy, the wrestling of that guy. Rebounded with the win over Walt Harris. Walt Harris has only got 5 minutes of gas in him. If you get through that 5 minutes and he's not hurt you, you can take that guy out. And he caught him with a body kick, folded him, put him down. But his striking's great at distance. I've seen people writing off Overeem's striking. I'm like, the guy's a K1 kickboxer at one point. He won a lot of big fights. He fought in Pride and so on. So kickboxing was his background coming through. So don't kind of rule him out there on the feet. But I do think Overeem's path to victory is through the ground there. And I've been mightily impressed with Alistair Overeem's ground game and his velocity of his ground and pound. It's serious. When you watch the Pavlovich fight, he lands just one shot that it's just a big thud, and you just see Pavlovich just kind of shutting down completely out of the fight, and really reeled him in there and beat him up. Same with Walt Harris, hurt him on the feet, big heavy ground and pound, took him out there. Sakai was down a couple of rounds there, lost a couple of rounds, and then comes through late in the fifth with a TKO with a big ground and pound. So in my opinion, he has to get this fight to the ground. I mean, 4 of his last 5 that he's won, guys over which I think he should be beating, like your Sakais, your Harris, your Olenek, your Pavlovich. Volkov, to me, looks a very, very confident fighter at the minute. I think he's not far off a title shot. Reem's come out and said, look, this is his last run for the title. I don't honestly mind a shot on Alistair Overeem at the odds that he's at. The bet I like for this fight is over 1.5 rounds, minus 200, and I'm trying to look to parlay that, but I don't really like this card as a parlay kind of piece card. So I'm actually going to take Alexander Volkov. I think eventually, I think he stuffs a couple of takedowns, and then on the feet, I think he does start to kind of catch that one-away chin of Alistair Overeem and gets a TKO finish in round number 4 or round number 5. So Alexander Volkov is my pick for the main event there. So that's my predictions, guys. I appreciate everybody that's sticking around with me. If you could throw a thumbs up in there, it'd be absolutely fantastic. I've got 32 in here, which is pretty awesome. Hope everybody's good there. I'm going to just jump in here and see what's going on because I've missed some of the chat here. Kape at Dog Money is not a bad one. I don't disagree with you there. I don't bet UFC anymore, especially with Fight Island judges. All right, okay. I'm seeing some people saying I like Askarov. So yeah, I can see a few people in there in the chat. Hello from Greece, Jaynes. Hope you're very, very well. Like I say, if you're there and just throw an absolute thumbs up, it will all help me and the channel. Just try and get this algorithm, try and get more views, try and get more subscribers. I'm still striving to get to that 4,000. It's become a little bit of a slog. But I'm getting there slowly but surely. Reem no blades, but I do think he can get Volkov down. I totally agree, Will. I like that as well. Lara Procopio via sub. I like her as a straight bet to BP. I think that's a really good shot there, but predominantly she could win via submission as well. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. All the very, very best. I'm going to be back Monday night for UFC 258, Usman against Burns. Looking forward to that fight. There's a couple of other great fights in that card there. So, oh, Kevin, don't say that. Don't say that, brother. Beneil will gas out. I did mention that. That is the one thing I have a little bit of a worry with that fight and having a bet on that fight, because he does look like he can expend his energy rather quickly in fights nowadays. And if he does that here, it could potentially, then it could potentially be out. So, Jaynes, waiting for my website. I might be doing something like that, but the Patreon is not far away from being done. Guys, I'm just waiting on here. So enjoy the fights when they come around. I'll be back next week. I'll put out a tweet or something out there to let you know when I'm going to be on. Until then, guys, all the very, very best. I will catch up with you next week. Enjoy the fight.